And sure enough, this GPS track has pretty tight stem required. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the rope tied. I have a feeling that's not the last time I'll need it on this particular hike. Today is March 28th, 2019. And I'm back here in the San Rafael Swell area, having scouted this area a little bit about a month ago when there was still a fair bit of snow and a fair bit of mud going on. I'm approaching from the north side this time and just gonna see what the roads look like before I decide where I'm gonna go. As usual, I'm getting kind of a late start. I might have time to do the Mexican mountain loop or something shorter, closer to the historical bridge there along the river. I'll just see how it goes based on the road conditions. First little part of the trail actually follows along the San Rafael River briefly and then meanders up towards Mexican Mountain, the namesake of Mexican Mountain Wilderness Study Area, with what appears to be an old mining trail that will be the path I follow counterclockwise around the mountain. And off to the left here is where the trail will rejoin after it circles back around. A little breezy, but a beautiful day. It's up in the mid-60s when I left my car. Should have a couple more hours or so of daylight to hopefully make it to what's known as the Delicate Arch here at Mexican Mountain Wilderness Study Area. There's actually a landing strip here. Not too far from Mexican Mountain. After I get up around the corner ahead there, I should be able to follow the trail north-northwest up to a landmark known as Delicate Arch, and hopefully I could find a camp there, and we'll see how it goes here on this beautiful evening in late March here in the San Rafael Swell. Today's March 29th, 2019, and I camped just a little bit below Delicate Arch here in Spring Canyon. Didn't actually realize how close the Delicate Arch was until I woke up and saw the profile up on the next bend there of the Delicate Arch. That means that I covered something like 4.5 miles yesterday on my way up the loop here, going counterclockwise. And today I'll continue up Spring Canyon, passing the junction with Nate's Canyon, and eventually get up on top and come back around to meet up with the trail that I came in on. Speaking of Nate's Canyon, I want to give a shout out to my brother Nate, who gifted me a water storage bottle that I just used for the first time in this spring behind me to filter some water, and it worked really well. And I'll give some details about that product in the show notes. Works real well with the Sawyer filters. In any case, I'm about to head out here and see how I go.
I'm
I see a spot here that's easy enough to climb down, but I don't really want to do it with my loaded pack, so I'm going to go ahead and just lower it down on a rope. It's only maybe a 10-15 foot drop with a light scramble to make that descent, but I'm glad I brought a rope here so I can just tie that through the top loop of my pack here and just gently lower it down so I'm not trashing my new Camelback bladder or squashing anything else. So I can just lower down easily, chuck my poles down too, and with that have an easier descent with just hands-free without the weight on the back, so I don't turtle backwards and tumble down what would be a treacherous fall since I'm out here by myself with no cell phone coverage to call for help or in reach. So better safe than sorry. So I'm just gonna take that precaution and descend back down into Spring Canyon that way. Oh, all right. That was easy. No avalanche yet. My pack ended up taking a little more of a tumble, but came to rest down there. And there's the line that I chose to come down. Rather crumbly and somewhat risky, but it wouldn't have been that far of a fall had I not been able to maintain contact. Definitely would have been easier going through the bottom of Spring Canyon, but was glad to have a bit of a challenge, even with the risk, and get a neat view of the back side of the arch. As I continue my way up Spring Canyon, I took a look at the All Trails map, which happens to even have some offline GPS. And it's recommending actually that I take that line up there that's kind of running through the cliffed out areas. Looks like how I can get up top and over to the other side to make my way back around. That's been another pleasant surprise from this trip, is learning that the All Trails app that I have has offline GPS that will pop up even out here in the boondocks where there is no cell coverage. So definitely an advantage having that on my phone. I probably wouldn't have thought to take that line up had I not had that available, that offline GPS. The canyon does continue up here, and looking strictly at the topographic features on the Trails Illustrated, I assumed that there'd be a way to head up and out that way, and maybe there is, but I'm gonna stick to the All Trails recommendation and see what it looks like after I ascend up this spill of rocks through the cliffs there. I'm finally above the rim now, above Spring Canyon. Not sure I would want to take on a descent of that same section. Coming up, it wasn't too bad. There was a few sections of hand over hand type climbing through the various layers of the San Rafael Swell here. Some of them are more crumbly than others. Some were more slick than others, but definitely helps to have some nice grippy footwear. That definitely came in handy a few times. And now I get this incredible view where I can even see what appear to be the Henrys off there in the distance, partially obscured by clouds, looking southwards. The broad ledge that I've been following since getting above the rim has been pretty easy traveling so far, across durable surfaces, relatively flat. But as I continue along here, I can see where I'm going to get squeezed out and cliffed out right over there. So I'm going to need to get up a little higher if I'm going to try to follow this GPS track, and hopefully this rock spill off to the right will lead me to it. I was able to get up a little higher to get up and around the cliff, but the route finding is definitely becoming hairier, and I'm just gonna have to have faith in that All Trails GPS track. Nice pleasant surprise is this arch here that I'm guessing is probably seldom seen. It's not on any of the maps that I've looked at. So, some very enjoyable Red Rock Canyon features here. Just if I could get around this deep canyon here, I'll be in much better shape to get up and over and around and back to the trailhead before the sun goes down. I've almost made my way around the canyon that I've been navigating the rim of, or a little below the rim actually. I came up on my second Mylar balloon of the day. Happy Valentine's Day! And it actually looks pretty fresh. It's not yet shedding little bits of foil or whatever these Mylar balloons are lined with. When you release these balloons into the sky, this is the type of place where it ends up. An otherwise pristine wilderness area. Not sure if the camera picks this up, but there's actually a very light little snow flurry going on up here in this high sort of canyon. I had a little bit of that when I first got above the rim as well, after I wrapped up with lunch. Nothing that's going to amount to much, but just kind of a fun contrast to the sunshine and the mid-60s weather that I was experiencing on the drive into the trailhead yesterday. Some fairly large tanks of water up here in the high canyon as well, and some shallow puddles also. It's always a treat to see water out here in the desert. Getting up close to that last saddle before I can get to the other side, and sure enough, this GPS track has pretty tight stem required. Pretty sure I can handle it, but I may have to deploy the rope that I brought and use that to haul the pack up. We'll see how it goes. It was much easier without the pack on to stem up this narrow little slot thing, and fortunately the rope held and was able to haul my pack up just like that, dragging it over the rocky steep surface there. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rope tied to the pack just because I have a feeling that's not the last time I'll need it on this particular hike. Glad I brought it. Definitely bring a rope, at least 30 if not 50 feet, to navigate up and down sections like that if you choose to do it with a heavy pack at least. I've reached the access point that will hopefully allow me to drop down into the canyon, into that beautiful scene that we see out in front of us with the San Rafael River in the distance and Mexican mountain. But sure enough, it's going to be steep enough that I'm going to go ahead and just lower my pack down so I can go hand over hand without the extra weight on my back. and see how it goes. From here I can see really the entire drainage of what I have left to hike down there. That will eventually meet up with San Rafael River. Off in the distance I could even see Mexican Bend where that airfield is. Same area where Butch Cassidy switched off to exchange for some fresh horses in his horse thief operation back in the day. So another interesting piece of Wild West history to go along with the Old Spanish Trail and the wild horses that came out of that Old Spanish Trail and the various uranium mines that serviced our needs during the Cold War. And of course, an incredible landscape. After dropping down many layers of rock here, I'm finally to the easy sort of mostly sandy layer that should take me all the way down to the San Rafael River, back to that junction that I passed, a little more than a day ago now. Gonna keep hiking a couple hours through the dark here till I get back to my car. Looking forward to car camping tonight. Definitely enjoyed the 17.6 mile loop. We can trust the mileage in the All Trails profile. It's definitely more canyoneering than I bargained for. Again, another ambitious route for a first backpack trip of the year. Hats off to whoever came up with that route and shared it on alltrails.com. If you do, look for that Mexican mountain wilderness hike on the alltrails.com. Just know that this trail is not a moderate difficulty hike. I would definitely categorize it as strenuous, with definitely quite a bit of route finding skills involved. Not appropriate for equestrian, at least past the arch where I camped near last night. But a fun canyoneering challenge. Altogether today I had to raise and lower my pack 3 times. Didn't have footsteps to follow either. Did see some bighorn sheep tracks, so that helped indicate that I was on the right track. And of course the GPS features on the All Trails app were invaluable for this trip. It would have taken much longer, I reckon, if I did not have that GPS track to follow. This happens to be my first wilderness backpacking adventure since late October, early November, so really nice to get back to this type of backcountry adventure. That's all for now. See you next time. On the next Backpacker Diaries. I decided to take my pack off and pursue some light stemming. From here I'll be able to do the yo-yo day hike to Sid's cabin. At least that's the plan. It's held up quite well actually, considered it was built more than 80 years ago.